Tonight on PM Express, a conversation about what our slum communities especially are turning into, with gangs everywhere who foment trouble and cause mayhem with the least or no provocation. That's exactly what we have had to deal with in Nima, one of Ghana's oldest slums, after two gangs decided to exchange guns and fly machetes, leaving at least 3 people with gunshots and machete wounds. Interestingly, this incident happened right close to the Nima police station, opposite where the president's residence is located. Tonight we ask, are we safe in our communities? You know, after dealing with murders, robberies, and what have you, now we've had to also deal with gangsterism. Just so you know what transpired, this is what happened. We've seen viral videos where you see youths approaching each other from opposing ends. Some wielded machetes and gunshots were fired. Now, we've just had updates this evening. The police says it has arrested 9 persons, 5 are in their custody, 2 hospitalized. Now, you can also see that they say they've retrieved many ammunitions from some irate youth of Nima and Mamobi. It is the ammunitions for me. Why are, such people wielding very powerful ammunitions? Where do they even get them? That's the thrust of our conversation tonight. But a joint task force from the SWAT team and the counter-terrorism unit of the Ghana Police Service have been deployed to maintain calm in that community. The immediate cause of the clash is not known. JoyNews gathers there's been a long-standing feud between the youth of Nima and Mamobi. Residents in the area say they live in fear of reprisal, and this is something that can happen. I mean, it's easy. So, and this is not the only time we're hearing this. We've heard so many of this in different communities. I mean, recently we've had the clash, the Ntonsu communal youth clash, which happened just July 2021. It was between some youth from Anya, Zongo, and Ntonsu in the Kwabri East district of the Ashanti region. They destroyed vehicles, vandalized shops, wares of some traders were destroyed, and rickshaws set ablaze. And it's also unclear what really sparked that clash between the two groups. It's important that we understand what really triggers these clashes, because when they happen, it is the ordinary person who bears the brunt. So tonight, we'll be looking at how to resolve these uncertainties. My guest in the studio, I will be having Sheikh Rimayal Shaibu, who is spokesperson for the National Chief Imam. Also joining me via Zoom is Professor Kwesi Ening, his Director, Faculty of Academic Affairs and Research. James Agalga, okay, so he is at the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Center. James Agalga is ranking member of the Defense and Interior Committee of Parliament, and Adib Sani is a security analyst. I'll be joined both in the studio and via Zoom. Let's have a conversation after this break. I'm grateful for your time, Sheikh, this evening, and I'm grateful for your time, Adib, who is joining us via Zoom. Would also be joined by Prof. Enin and James Agalga shortly. Let me start with you, Sheikh. You must be worried with what has happened today.
I mean, definitely. The sight was the one that evoked shock, disappointment, worry, anxiety, call it anything, and fear, sadness, and everything that one can associate with some of these negative emotions as a result of such a development, which in our view is a needless kind of development, but it has taken place. And my disappointment more is in an area where it's clearly, I mean, it's a Muslim-dominated area, so one would expect the refinement that the teachings of Islam brings to human life, i.e. tolerance, non-violent predisposition, care for each other, respect for the sanctity of the human blood and the sacredness of life, and all those things are things that Islam upholds. And so for an area where you see, I mean, more than 5 times a day, with the blaring of the horns of the azan in an area of such nature, and every day we hear the sermons, and to have such, if you like, brigandry, or if you like, kind of clashes of young people irate, I mean, must be something that is worrying. And I find it a certain contradiction. Yeah.
It is indeed worrying. Adib Sani, you are familiar with this community, and you followed this incident since it happened. Was there any room for us to prevent this situation?
Because these individuals, some of them are known by the police. And I listened to the news conference organized by the police this evening, and they pointed to the fact that Kumoji particularly and some other persons were brought before the police and they were given a bond. For the past 2 years, they have never engaged in any such act again until today. This issue, also based on my findings on the ground today, points to the fact that it's been simmering for some time now. There's been efforts to mend the ties between these two groups. Unfortunately, not much was done about it, and it kept simmering under the radar, and nobody was able to pay attention to it until it blew up in our face. So I think that if we had accorded the issue the seriousness it deserved, we would have perhaps enhanced intelligence on the ground, and that could have helped us prevent it in the first place. But that notwithstanding, in as much as it is a dastardly, despicable act, it also presents to us a unique opportunity to look into the issue of gangsterism within the Zongos. For years on end, they have existed. And just before we came on air, I personally took the trouble to gather some more information about who these gangs are and who are those behind it. And I have quite a number of names here. Kumoji group is very well known, and according to the police, it's led by one Ibrahim Hussein. Then we have the Bombo, which is also called the Bom Bom, led by one Ali Awudu. There are other groups, including Matata, Flashpoint areas. Then we have Downside. Then, interestingly, World Bank on Kanda Highway. Another group is called Abenasi. Another group is called Gata. Then we have the Momba, who are from Mamobi. And these groups have been in existence for some time now. And usually, when you study the pattern closely, you would realize that their services is sought after from outside of the Zongos, not inside. And they have 4 main things they do. One, they are a nurturing, so to speak. They are a nursery for political vigilantism. So when politicians need to go the Buga way, the most convenient place to go is the Zongos. And there are boys who are ready to die for 20 cities, okay? Some also are used for land disputes. If you have a dispute over a land, instead of go through the process, which would be in court for years on end, they come to seek the services of these guys. And of course, some also sell drugs from the information I've gathered on the ground. And finally, some are recruited to take part in robbery activities, extortion. They are also debt collectors. If you have your money with someone who is proven very difficult, you come, they will provide you that service, and other crimes they are engaged in. So this gives us a unique opportunity for us to understand the psychology of gangsterism in the Zongos and put in place mechanisms to deal with it.
Thankfully, Mr. Galga, who is ranking member of the Defense and Interior Committee, has joined us. Mr. Galga, there's a bigger picture of nurturing such groups in our communities, especially the slum areas. Recently, we've even seen more of those, and all they do is foment trouble and more trouble. What could be accounting for this gangsterism? Have we lost Mr. Galga there? All right. So let me come back to Sheikh. Sheikh, you initially, you're not happy with what has happened, and especially you see some, especially when you see that that community is supposed to be one that brings unity, one that brings sacredness, and then you find people behaving this way. It's actually not a good spectacle. What could be accounting for this?
Yeah, I mean, so many factors, some of which my very good young brother has listed. But in the first place, I think there is the prevalence of youth adventurism, which is part and parcel of youthful life. But adventurism, if it's well directed and guided, now it leads one into more productive, things that makes contribution to society. But when it is misused, and there are reasons. I mean, some of them is, idleness, lack of understanding of Islamic teachings, incomplete, attempt to deal with the matters. Like as we listen, I mean, this is not a new phenomenon within the community. Anytime it triggers off, attempts are made and to deal with it like firefighting, we just, once it goes calm, we, like usual, the way we do our things, we seem to forget that as they lie low, they begin to fester and waiting for another opportunity to strike. I also feel that probably those of us who are imams probably have not done our work effectively, because like I mentioned, I see a contradiction between Islamic virtues and the life of the people who are in the. So what could account for that? And that's why it must be also an embarrassment to Muslim leadership, where we have the chiefs, how far the chiefs are aware that these things are there, and we don't deal with it frontally. The imams are there. And there is also one other factor. You see, our group solidarity and communitarianism in itself, instead of making things positive for us, using it for positive development, rather it has been tend to be a negative thing where we appear to even protect those evil elements who live with us. For example, we refuse to give out information, or for a chief in an area to know that, look, gradually a certain gangs are building up and they have arms, they engage in certain activities, and everybody keeps silent about it until it is. So in my view, with all due respect to some of our leaders, I think there's an element of negligence also in the thing, in trying to say, look, this thing is a terrible threat to our society, to our survival. It creates fear and anxiety. It is being used to intimidate us, and so on. And because of that, none of us is safe. Yeah. None of us. To allow some sort of distance to develop, I am not safe. I am not safe. If I live within the family, I'm not safe. The imams and all the business people there, look at the stray bullets and getting into people's shops. Who is safe? No one is safe. Yeah. And yet no one has the commitment. Yeah. So I think we have failed in doing the right thing, especially in dealing with such a deep-seated problem. I mean, you don't deal with it in one term, but you draw a program of both short, medium, and long-term dealing with it. The long-term is to, on a very sustainable basis, you are dealing with it and monitoring the situation and getting people liberated from that kind of lifestyle and so on. And then you are using the immediate, attempt now to arrest the situation. That's where the security arrangements come in. So a number of factors have accounted for this. And when I saw the picture, I cringed. I was gripped by fear, apart from my own disappointment, because, look, in such a community, my expectation is that wherever Islam prevails, we must see refinement of life. Yeah. That crudeness of animal life in us. Islam is the teachings that guides us to be able to be liberated from that kind of life into a life of refinement, wherein there is so much respect for human life, the virtues of respect for life, the virtues of love, avoiding hate, but situation where we can look at each other. The picture we saw, for example, let me see two people welding cutlass and one now cutting the other, and his legs now give way under him, and he falls down and is being dragged on the floor. Some stray bullets have, hit some people. All these are going to bring about cost to government, apart from the fear it creates. So I think this must give us an opportunity to sit down again and look at and review approaches that we want to use. I know the Chief Imam has made a commitment to the former IGP and the current ones that he is prepared to cooperate with them in any matter that has to do with the national security. I represent the Chief Imam on the National Security Dialogue, where we keep on talking about this, and I'm sure the Ministry of National Security, this is a national security matter. It is not a matter for Mamobi and Nima. If it triggers in other communities, just like they have guns in them hidden and no one is talking about it, it's going to trigger in other communities. So it must be viewed nationally. But because we are Muslims, we say we must target the Zongo communities where such tendencies are on the rise. And I want to see Islam bringing refined human beings, the beauty of religion and the virtueness that brings beauty to life and assures people of hope. I mean, those are the things that we want to see.
I'm happy that you talk about religion and the fact that the religion is supposed to refine the people within it. And also, there's also the bit about Satan finding work for the idol. Have we also failed in our responsibility in actually empowering this youth economically so that they have something to lose if they create such environment? Have we failed the youth?
Yeah, I think that one is a state matter. That's why all governments have ministries of youth since then, changing educational policies and so on and so forth. But what I suspect is that this thing did not begin today. And within the Zongo community, the Zongo community has been a disadvantaged community for a long time. And most of them had lost opportunity for education and so on and so forth. So these are the remnants of those who suffered those disadvantages. But it is not to justify what they do. Because even if you don't have the opportunity to go to higher education, you still have other means to be able to make a good life. For example, I mean, learning some vocation and other things are means by which, and if you go to Nima and Mobi, there are young people who have made it. I mean, just recently I went into a shop somewhere, they call it Big Dreams, Big Dreams. These are young people. I just wanted something to do, and I was guided to go there. And I found what they are doing. It's a small shop, but they're doing so many things, teaching out driving school, I mean, selling electricity,
gadgets.
Gadgets. And so, I mean, doing so many things. You want a plumber, you go to them, they can provide you a plumber. You want an electrician, they can give. These are very young people.
One-stop shop.
One-stop shop. You go to everything you want. And I said, wow, this is creative.
Yeah.
So the fact that you didn't get a chance, I mean, to embark upon a higher education is not a reason why you should ruin yourselves. And also this thing that is also prevalent in our communities, drugs. Drugs. It's a terrible threat to us, and people engage in drug trafficking. Hajis go to Mecca, come back, they sell these things, and they destroy these sacred lives who God has created in order to really grow and become useful to themselves and useful to society. Just somebody comes to, reduce them to this kind of life. It's a terrible thing, and it's something that we really need to get back to ourselves, engage with the police and the security, and then also look at what approach in our religion, our teaching can be more effective. The issue now is being professional and technical in the way that you tackle problems. It's not enough when you stand on the pulpit, you churn out the verse of the Quran you have memorized. We've done this for years from behind. If it's not working, it means that we must really adopt a certain approach. That will mean that we are dealing with the issue frontally. We must understand human psychology, youth psychology. What are the challenges of our people? How do we now team up with the state and say that, look, we have noted that this is an issue for our community, and this is the way we want to tackle it. If we don't do it this way, we'll live with this danger, and the next time we are seeing a more terrible thing, and I think we should not wait for that.
We shouldn't wait for that. Adib, it's the retrieval of ammunitions for me. Where on earth do these young ones get weapons of this nature?
Well, on this note, I speak as an executive council member of the coalition of NGOs against proliferation of small arms and light weapons. We have been in touch with stakeholders to discuss, I mean, on several occasions, the issue of proliferation of small arms. Most of it is coming from the local gun manufacturers. And at a point, the Minister of Interior categorically stated that over 80% of arms retrieved at crime scenes are locally manufactured. But we seem to not be paying attention to this booming local gun manufacturing industry in the country, particularly within the Alavanyo, Konya area, Kumasi, Boko, and other parts of the country. Even though police has made efforts in getting these guys, arrested, like it happened about a month or two ago in Kumasi, I think there's still a lot more work to be done in that regard. As far back as 2014, there was a baseline survey by the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping and Training Center that points to over 2 million illegal guns in the system. So you can imagine 8 years on how many we might have in the system, and that is worrying. And a lot of these weapons might also be registered. They might be licensed, but the licenses is usually not renewed. Like the Small Arms Commission indicated in late 2020 at an event somewhere in the Western region. They pointed that of the about 1.25 million illegal guns in the registered guns in the system, only 40,000 of them renewed their licenses. So a lot of them are still in the system without getting registered. So this emboldens these, guys, because they feel sometimes they have more firepower than even the police. And actually, it would interest you to know that the local gun manufacturers have gone beyond the manufacture of handguns, similar to Glock 6R, Beretta, etc. Now, they are into the manufacture of rifles similar to M16, AR-15, AK-47, and the rest. And that, I must say, is disturbing because information that we have picked from the streets points to the fact that they have it in excess to the extent that they are even able to export some of it. So that, I must say, is disturbing. But before we move on, let me also indicate that my organization, the Jetske Center for Human Security and Peace Building, is located in the heart of Zongo. And in the past, we have done some research into some of these issues and why the youth engage themselves in such activities. And one of it has to do a lot with the breakdown in the moral fiber of society. And Sheikh Adam Yao couldn't have gotten it better. Believe it or not, you have a Malam who preaches in the mosque, yet his 15-year-old son, who just completed JHS, goes out and comes back home with a Mercedes-Benz C-Class. And the father doesn't ask where he got these, car from. So it is a major problem because people do things and get away with it. And it almost looks like once you are in Zongo, you are beyond reproach. And there's a culture of impunity. You can do anything and get away with it. Just imagine the number of young men on motorbikes without helmets. Imagine you are in a hurry for a meeting and they block a road because there's a wedding procession ongoing there. So we really need to also deal with the cycle of impunity. We need to break the chain of local legitimacy. Today, I attempted to speak with people. Believe it or not, Aisha, nobody was willing to speak with me. One even mentioned that Kumoji is a terrorist. That is the word they used for him. And that if you dare mention his name to the police that night, you would have to change your sleeping place.
That's how dangerous this whole thing is. Now, the police has given us some assurances, renewed energy, and so they want us not to live in fear. But is that what the situation really is? Let's listen to the police speaking on this matter.
Of you, what actually are the causative factors to that? Looking at the group, as we stated, the Kumoji group and that of the Momo group, Bomb group, it is a gang, a criminal gang designed to perpetuate violence in that community. Gangsterism of this height will not be accepted by the Ghana Police Service. And We'll do whatever it takes to make sure that we nip them in the bud, dismantle their network and orchestrations to allow our capital city to be in peace. So they're going to witness a standard growth. And looking at the causes of yesterday's violence is their quest for supremacy, their quest to lord over each other, their quest to make sure that they intimidate their opponents. And there have been occasions where they've had a lot of fights at the lower level without coming to light. And their activities have been monitored by the Nima police closely for the last 2 years. They were hauled to the Municipal Security Council and dealt with and won accordingly. They also came to the Nima Divisional Police Station 2 years ago and they were bonded. Till yesterday, that they exhibited mass violence. This situation will not be allowed to continue. The police administration has taken serious view of it and will work with youth groups, interest groups, civil society organizations, and other stakeholders to make sure that wherever we have such criminal gangs and elements will be dealt with, not only in Accra, but in our entire country. Ghana is a democratic country, and we'll make sure that the police enforces the law to its fullest.
Welcome back to PM Express, and you heard there Kwesi Fori, who speaks for the police service, assuring us once again that the police is up to task, and he's also talking about arrest. The issue has been people going unpunished when they commit crimes, and the fact that there's been so many criminal issues that have not been brought to closure. Adib, could this also be fueling some of these things? Because people can go about doing things with impunity, yet they are not punished for the crimes they commit.
Absolutely. I mean, it's one of the issues I've observed, I've talked about over the period, because it is only human nature that if you perpetrate a crime today, nothing is done about it. You perpetrate tomorrow, nothing is done about it. You would feel that crime is normalized and you can do just anything and get away with it. So until we deal with the issue of impunity that seems to be festering, particularly in the Zongos and other inner cities, who would have this issue recurring. I mean, you can imagine what would take a young man to pick up a gun and start indiscriminately, recklessly firing in the streets. I mean, anybody could have been hit, and truly, a young man was hit in the shoulder whilst he was seated in his car. And see the exchange of machete. I mean, for once, I thought I was watching a Chinese karate movie scene. You could hear the sound. It was unbelievable. The guts, what would embolden people to come out in the streets and behave in the manner they did. And interestingly, Aisha, a lot of these guys are known in the area. They know everybody. In fact, the Zongo community is quite closely knit. Everybody knows everybody. Everybody knows everybody's family house, okay? And so these people are known. Unfortunately, they seem to have had some sort of local legitimacy, not because the people love them, but because they have instilled so much fear into the people, nobody was willing to speak. When I was there, I mean, I was going around picking some information, and a lady was approached by the police. While she was speaking with the police, I saw the boys, some of them with tattoos, and I could see all sorts of things written on their arms, cartel, something cartel. And they were giving signs and passing comments to the effect that, hey, stop talking with the police. So when the police left, I saw them rebuking the woman in no uncertain terms how or why she should speak with the police. So you can imagine the type of terror these people are visiting on the people in this area. And I'm hoping that this should serve as a lesson. The next time something like this happens, we should follow it up to the latter and ensure that they have their day in court and they are dealt with according to the law, because a lot of them feel they are beyond reproach and they can do anything and get away with it, because some also feel they even have the police in their pockets, which is another day's topic.
Sheikh, it's really sad that we're having all of this happening. I mean, in broad daylight, people shooting and not caring about, I mean, whoever is around and who will be affected by their activities. I know over the period, mostly the office of the chief imam has stepped into some of these issues and it's been well resolved. We are also hearing that this is just a trigger of an old wound which has not been properly, if you like, dressed. How do we approach this, or how does the office of the national chief imam intend to approach this particular issue and all others in our Zongo community so we can bring some sanity there?
I think the problem of youth violence must be a matter of worry for us. We must also see from the angle of the fact that once it gets into a full-blown security threat, none of us is free. We need to really find solution, not a one-stop solution. Because, I mean, youth issues, misdemeanor and other things cannot be resolved in one sitting. And that's why I make a proposal of the short, medium, and long-term solution to this problem.
Okay.
Short, because we need to arrest the situation. Medium, because we want to really create a certain environment that will allow us to now finally with the issue. And this, we must draw a roadmap for this. And the final one has to do with the training of the mind and the spirit that will reject even just the mindset of violence. In other words, we want to build up a community of people whose mind reject violence for whatever reason. And there should be a better way. We also want to build a community of people who uphold the principles of order and discipline and decency in life. And this must be, whether old or young, we should be able to really do this. And this is when we can make a contribution to society. But once, knowing the human being the way he is, if we don't train and we don't guide the energies for really more purposeful use, then we will see this. So if you ask me, like this morning, the chief imam had the opportunity of meeting the 16 regional imams, for example, and give them the order, the instruction that they must make this in the subject of their sermons on this Friday. But it should not stop there. In fact, now it is even important to train the imams themselves in matters of counseling, so that the communities in which they live, they have periodic engagement with the youth. They should also be able to really gather intelligence in terms of some of these gangsterism and when they are building up, so that they can use their own leaders and get them to understand that these things are dangerous. Then our chiefs also, now we have our chiefs have what we call the National Council of Zongo Chiefs. What is their use? They are leaders. These youth belong to different tribes. And these tribes have got chiefs. Yeah. And that is exactly what should be their work. But there's a development which is, for me, is worrying. Gradually, we are seeing a development where even land guards are becoming Zongo chiefs. I mean, that's the truth.
Interesting.
Gradually, because they engage in this and they are able now to engage closely with the traditional authorities, and they are given land When they are given the land, when they sell it, they then become chiefs, and they are gradually being recruited and ushered into the dignified platform of chiefs in our communities. When your chiefs become land guards, what becomes of your community? When your chiefs become land guards, what becomes of your community? And that's for me a dangerous trend, because the chiefs are mentors. They are reciprocatories of our traditional wisdom and our cultural virtues that are used to build and unite society together. In our traditional culture, that's why we say, I am because we are, and we are because I am. That is our tradition that holds us together. And religion now comes to cement it and make it even more refined. So I think that we should not do the firefighting approach where this thing has happened and we are talking. It must give us an opportunity to sit down with the security experts and really draw a long-term program where from time to time it includes education, it includes the use of law, educating people on the issue of human rights, and so on and so forth. We have to do all the, I will add even in our Makaranta system. So that if we have a Makaranta and we have the Ustaz or the Madam who teaches them, what kind of approach does he use to build up students of the Makaranta whose mind will reject violence? I think we need something like this. And gradually, I'm sure that if we are able to do this, and from time to time we review the approach from time to time, I'm sure we're going to. But for now, quickly, I think we need to engage with the IGP's office and really draw up something. If it means reaching out to different communities, meeting the youth, identifying the youth leaders, even where such things hadn't happened. But I want to get one-on-one with youth leaders, engage with them, and I'm sure the Chief Imam has the influence and what it takes to be able to meet them. We pray for his long life. I'm sure because of his reverence, if he invites them to a certain platform, they might come. We use the Imam's police, engage them, the regional commander of police who is a Muslim, the DCOP Suraj, who is the Deputy Director General and in charge of the operations, for example. All these people will bring them together, and they give us the security expertise to be able to handle, then also the psychology of it. Yeah, I'm sure there are institutions that are very good in counseling. For example, the University of Ghana, for the psychology department, can help us with the technicalities of counseling that will be dealing with this. That's when we deal with in the long term and to be able to save our community.
Sheikh makes very important statements. One, the trend that is we are seeing recently that land guards are becoming Zongo chiefs. It's one that we should watch out. But more importantly, he talks about intelligence. Could we have been more proactive, Adib, in terms of police intelligence to avert this?
Well, absolutely. As a conflict and mediation analyst, I do understand that if you are dealing with a conflict situation and you deal with it superficially, it would recur. But the best way to deal with conflicts is to deal with it from the very root cause, because that is more sustainable. So 2 years ago, when this issue came up, if we have dealt with it conclusively, I don't think we would have had to contend with what we went through yesterday in the streets of Nima. So I think that intelligence should, have been maintained on the ground. Unfortunately, perhaps because of the myriad of insecurity challenges we've had to deal with all across the country, the intelligence community might have had their radar pointed elsewhere. And so we forgot about Nima. But here we are today. And I'm sure and confident that already some personnel are on the ground and they'll be able to gather the right intelligence so we are able to deal with this once and for all. But it goes beyond intelligence. I mean, as Sheikh rightly mentioned, we need to engage stakeholders within that area. Obviously, our chief imam is revered, he's respected. Whatever he says stands, and people, respect it. So when we get his office involved, I'm pretty sure we should be able to rain down on the youth to get them to understand that, hey, we're a country that is governed by the rule of law. And if you fall foul of the law, it's going to catch up with you. And nobody's going to call the police commander to tell them that, hey, you are my boy, let him go. No, that is not going to happen. We also need to deal with the issue of impunity like we mentioned earlier. The arrests, I understand 9 persons have been arrested. Bomba and Kumoji are on the run, and there are some others who have avoided even going to the hospital even though they were hurt. We need to make a conscious attempt, get the locals to support us. I understand 20,000 bounty has been placed on Kumoji and Bomba, and I'm hoping that soon we get all of these persons involved and make them go through the right process rigorously and vigorously. But Aisha, of the most important to me in the midst of all of these solutions I've mentioned is the issue of human security. We know that a lot of people live below the poverty line in the area. Some live in squalid conditions. The youth, there are a lot there. They don't have jobs. Their future is uncertain. Some don't have basic access to certain necessities of life, like healthcare, like water, like sanitation, like food. So there's a lot more to die for than to live for, basically speaking, because already they feel their life is not even worth living. So when we invest in these human securities, we would be giving the youth particularly a lot more to live for than to die for. And one of it would have been through the Zongo Development Fund. I mean, there was a Zongo ministry. I don't know to what extent they've been able to improve the quality of life of the people in the Zongos. But if we are able to improve the quality of life of the people, they would have jobs, they get paid at the end of the month, they have families. Nobody, not Sheikh, not Chief Imam will tell them to stay safe. Okay, so we really need to deal with these human insecurities lurking in the Zongo communities if we want to solve this once and for all on a very sustainable basis.
Definitely. We've spoken about unresolved criminal cases. We've spoken about proliferation of arms. We've spoken about the police approach to issues. When I return from this break, we'll be looking at how we can resolve this issue. Which different approach should we adopt in addressing this issue? Stay with me. I'm coming right back. Welcome back to PM Express. We are looking at what really happened in Nima. Two feuding factions, two gangs shooting sporadically, firing or flying machetes and ending up people injuring people and, doing all of that in impunity. We want to look at how to end such impunity in our community. Some time ago, Sheikh, there was this concept of community policing. And for me, it did really help in, addressing some of these issues. Did it help?
Yeah, I think for me it was one of the beautiful strategies that the Ghana police adopted, and I thought it was useful because it was bringing the police close and closer to the community, a more integrated approach to doing the policing where community was brought in. The engagement with the police was so close. In other words, the people in the community were made to understand the need for their own security, and they saw the police now more as friends and as collaborators.
And I think people partners in the community themselves were also part of the watchdogs. So it became more friendly.
Yeah. Like in Nima, for example, I know they used to have this Nima watchdog. Unfortunately, that effort was undermined by the same community itself, and so they went into roll-ups. But it appears to me the community policing approach is no more in operation. That's because I no more see them. But once I was engaging with one of the police people and said, no, the community policing concept is there, but it's the operation that they want to change. So they don't want to see community policing in terms of building a structure somewhere, but that they want a situation where the police are made to integrate in society. They may not necessarily even use their uniforms, but that they are lived and they are known for what they do. Whatever it is, whatever review they do of the approach, it is very, very, very critical. I'm sure if that thing was effective and in operation, we would have been able to gather the intelligence and to anticipate these things as they trigger off, so that we'll be able to really handle them as we also go ahead and do the proper education intended to socialize the people along the lines of virtues where they have respect for human life and the sanctity of the human blood, especially coming from the angle of our religion. So if you ask me, my recommendation will be to the police to quickly look at the idea of community policing. And then within the community, we can also have units within the community made up of Islamic scholars and some of the youth that are put together to assist such police in doing some of these things, and also give information. Sometimes they are friendly with the people, where a young person had to be invited somewhere for some advice, for some assistance, and they can also become the conduit to it. Even the state wants to engage. Aisha, I want to, if the president had asked me about the Ministry of Zongo, that he wants to dissolve it, I would have begged the president and said, President,
not to.
I know you cannot have a permanent Ministry of Zongo. Yes, I agree. But for now, there is a philosophy and a wisdom and a purpose for which it has been established. We have not reached there. I would have suggested strongly that leave it the way it is. Rather, look at what are the deficiencies, because it is the strongest of steps ever taken to address, but the most powerful, in my view, the initiative taken in order to address frontally the development challenges of the Muslim community. It is not so much only about the educational aspect. It has social, moral, ethical, and other dimensions, economic dimensions of that which change reform. In fact, it was more about the development. It's development-oriented. It is not necessarily to just establish it. But unfortunately, I don't blame the government or the president. We still have the Dongo Development Fund. But I think that that fund needs to sit down again. In the face of some of these challenges, we need to re-strategize, understand the philosophy very well and the wisdom behind establishing it, and see in a very expeditious manner how it becomes the agency by which the Zongos become transformed. And I think not until we have done so, it will remain, and then we'll see that the impact is not as we expect, and we see some of these things developing. And I think that, and the collaboration with the Muslim chiefs, imams, and the Makaranta teachers within the community must be so strong in addressing even matters of social challenges, youth adventurism, and how we can get them close, so that within the context of mutual respect and understanding, to understand the issues of human rights and how we should all work to guarantee human rights and protection of our society. These, for me, I wish that immediately something can be done around it.
So, Adib, 9 people arrested. Should it end there? I mean, Sheikh talks about community policing concept, which seem to be fading out in our community. If it's not faded, gone away in its entirety. What's the new approach that we should be looking at in dealing with some of these issues?
Well, before I come to that, by the way, a lot of these community police members feel neglected. I had a discussion with their president, and according to him, they've been jettisoned. Even though some new police have been recruited, a lot of their colleagues were not, and they feel very disappointed. That's by the way, though. I think we need to look at the issue of strengthening family values, and I think religion can play a role in that regard. I mean, sometimes when you want to do something bad, you think about hell, and it stops you from doing that. So we cannot negate the very importance of religion. Even though there's been some few social dynamics in our Zongo, still it remains conservative, and people adhere to particularly Islam. And when we get the religious bodies, particularly the Malams involved, it can help in that regard. We also need to improve the living conditions. I mean, it's so squalid, and I think by investing in the human beings, that would also, on a sustainable basis, bring peace to the area. Employment opportunity, Aisha, very, very, very important. I know government cannot absorb everybody, okay, but the educational system has to be defined in such a manner that when you come out of school, you don't have to put on your tie with papers and be roaming all over the place looking for a job. You should be able to employ yourself. By so doing, I'm hopeful that things will change.
I'm grateful for your time. Adib Sani is a security analyst, and I'm extremely grateful Sheikh Mio Shaibu, who is spokesperson for the National Chief Imam. I'm grateful that you made it. My name is Aisha Ibrahim. Enjoy the rest of our programs.